Awesome. All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to RetireJapan TV. This is our second installment. The first one was really fun. I'm hoping this one's going to be really fun as well. So I'm Ben from RetireJapan. I should probably change my thing. And here's my co-host.
Hello, everyone. Can I just, whilst we're just starting, I want to say thank you for the kind people, aka my parents, who got me this fancy new mic. So my quality should be much better than last time, especially for the podcast listeners.
Awesome. Right. Okay. So this is our special Christmas edition. For people who are listening to this without pictures, we have our Santa hats. We're all good to go. So what did you do for Christmas?
Sitting, resting, eating like everybody else. But what I did do on New Year's Eve, I was at an event dressed as Father Christmas in the whole outfit. It's the first time I've done that, actually. And it finished. The car is about 15 minutes walk away in the car park. And am I going to change? Let's just walk like this. And so I walked through the town dressed as Father Christmas with the mask on top of the white beard. I was so embarrassed. And then there's a guy on the side of the street, with the red stick, the construction worker kind of traffic guy. And he gave me a big smile. So I said, "Oh, Merry Christmas." And he Merry Christmas. And okay, I'll calm down a little bit. And then I saw a couple, walking past. So I said, "Oh, Merry Christmas." And they suddenly gave me a smile, "Merry Christmas." And I really got into it. So then people would drive past with the kids like staring, wave to everyone, shout through someone's window, "Merry Christmas." And then I got to this one point where there's these two young families just sort of walking. I turned around the corner and there were these three little kids just stopped in their tracks. And the parents thought, "Oh, it's Santa-san, it's Santa-san." And so I was just like, "Where are you at? Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas." And their faces was so like shocked.
You didn't get a bunch of little kids following you then?
I felt like a superstar, yes. And because no one knows who I am. So it was just brilliant. I'm tempted to do it every year. It felt like, you got this superpower where everyone suddenly loves you and waves at you. It was really good.
Could be a new tradition for you, like dress up as Santa and walk around, right?
I recommend it.
Awesome.
And you? Christmas?
Yeah, well, I cook Christmas dinner every year. So I've been doing that for about 15 years now. Wow. Started off because I really missed having, kind of the British style Christmas dinner with turkey and roast potatoes and stuff. So I started making it about 15 years ago. And I've slowly become less bad at it. Right. So now, like this time round, very little stress. I had the family over, I had 10 people. So I had my turkey and potatoes and so on. Brussels sprouts. We found Brussels sprouts. Took ages to find them.
Yeah.
So we're still eating turkey, obviously. 3 days later. I'm going to throw the turkey away tomorrow because I'm getting a bit tired of it. But
right. But you did that.
Yeah, it's good. We do that on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So this is I think this is a really good hack. So you do Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, you can just relax and eat leftovers and watch TV and open presents and do all that stuff. So
yeah.
Very much recommended. This is actually how they do it in Spain. So it's Noche Vieja, Noche Buena. So you have the big meal on Christmas Eve, and then kind of chill out.
Worth a try.
Yeah, and no snow over here, thankfully. All the snow's on the Sea of Japan side.
Oh, right. Yes, you're so far up. I thought because my southern Japan had snow.
Ehime,
where you
like
are, but
40 centimeters or something. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. So I thought we could kick off today's episode with a quick kind of get to know you kind of thing. So we're going to do 3 truths and a lie. And I'm going to encourage people in the comments to guess which one is the lie for each of us. So do you want to kick us off there, Daniel?
Sure, yeah. So I have 4 statements, and so one of them is not true, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So first one. When I fly into an airport, I like to walk into the city rather than train, taxi, whatever.
Okay. I know people that do. I know one person who's famous that does that, but okay.
Oh, okay. I have climbed Mount Fuji.
Okay.
I have an algorithm for brushing my teeth. And
no. You have to explain that. You can't just drop buzzwords in.
Let's say I have how would you say, a formula for
Oh,
brushing.
okay.
And I enjoy candle making. There we go.
That is quite hard.
One
Okay.
of those is not true.
We're going to give the answers at the end. So, but for now, I'm going to say that the algorithm thing's not true. The toothbrushing thing. But we'll see if I'm right at the end of the show. All right, I'm going to give my 4. So, number 1, I studied Chinese at university. Number 2, I've been mugged 3 times.
Ooh, I hope that's not true.
Number 4, my roommate invented the Raspberry Pi computer.
Ooh, that would be cool if it's true.
And number 4, I flew a plane once. I didn't walk from the airport, but I did fly the plane. So, what do you reckon?
Okay, that's good. Yeah, no, I'm a bit stuck there. What would I say? I mean, yeah, I really hope the mug 3 times one is wrong. And then you don't say, no, it was 4 times.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that one because I want it to be false.
Okay. All right, we'll find out at the end. And we'll probably forget to do this. If you're in the chat, do feel free to remind us to give the answers at the end of the show.
Yes, and we have somebody suggested one answer already. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. So, okay, so actually the main thing we do here is we talk about news items. So we're going to do that. We're going to go through 5 news items and related comments. And then we're going to do a quick deep dive. And today's deep dive is we're going to talk about what Daniel's son should do financially, given that he's at university, I believe, and has a part-time job.
During the holidays, yeah.
And is earning some money and should probably do something sensible with it. So we'll talk about that.
How can I persuade him to?
Yes, let's buy some crypto.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about some stories from the forum. So some interesting threads on the forum that people might want to check out. And then if we have questions from our enormous audience, we'll take some questions and we'll reveal the answers to our fascinating quiz at the end. And then we'll talk about the next session because we have decided to have a 3rd Retire Japan TV at least. All right. So what are our news items for today?
Maybe we should make it clear. This is news relating to finance in Japan, not.
Oh, yes. In today's breaking political news. No. Actually, the breaking political news. One of our members of parliament is getting fired. I mean, that's great because I don't like the guy.
Obviously.
Akiba Kenya, who's the reconstruction minister, has been a naughty boy. So he's going to be fired as the reconstruction minister, or has been just now. But...
Oh, wow.
But that's not the kind of news that we talk about here on Retire Japan, especially not on Christmas.
So what do we have then? First one. Yes. NISA. This has been in the news quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yes, the NISA. Although it's hard to have missed the NISA news, I think. I've done at least one blog post and a video about it. So this is the new NISA system. And the new NISA system is replacing the new NISA system that was supposed to start in 2024 that's now been scrapped. So I've decided to call this the Eternal NISA because it no longer has a time limit on the tax-free period, which is amazing. This is what we've always wanted for NISA. All our prayers have been answered. We get a much bigger contribution limit. It's tax-free forever. And yeah, I'm happy. I mean, it could be better, the lifetime limit could be larger, right? It's currently 18 million yen, which is not bad, but I mean, obviously it could be larger. But 18 million yen is a decent chunk of change. And if you manage to save and invest that much money, it's going to compound and grow and you're going to end up somewhat comfortable, depending on what your lifestyle's like.
Is that 18 million yen that you're like the limit of how much you can have in your NISA, or is it how much you can put in?
Yeah, it's the contribution limit. So you can put in 18 million yen and then those investments will hopefully grow much more than 18 million. But 18 million is how much you can put in. And actually, that's one question about the system. There's a lot of news articles that are saying that you can actually reuse your lifetime limit. So you can sell some of it. And you'll get your limit back. So if you put in 18 million yen and your lifetime limit is all used up, and then you sell 2 million yen, then you'd be able to put another 2 million yen's worth of investments into there. But it's not entirely clear how that's going to work.
Right.
That's the last remaining question about NISA.
So there's that lifetime limit. Is there also the annual limit?
Yeah, so every year you can put in up to 3.6 million yen. And 1.2 million yen of that is restricted to mutual funds, and 2.4 million yen is not restricted. So you could put it in mutual funds, or you could buy shares or ETFs instead.
Right. So the annual limit is increased from what it was, but it's now split into two, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's two components. So it's kind of like they took the Tsumitate NISA and doubled it, and then they took the normal NISA and doubled it, and then put them together. I mean, it's confusing again. It really needs to be simple so that people can use it. But I think it has become more simple because the time limit's gone. So it's quite easy to understand. You invest in here and it's tax-free forever.
Yeah.
Until you sell it. And the two questions we did have were, can children use it? Because there were rumors that it would replace the junior NISA, which is ending next year. And the other question was, can we roll over our existing NISA into the new one, right? Whether that's a regular NISA or Tsumitate NISA. And the answer to both of those questions is no. Children can't use the new NISA. You have to be 18. And you can't roll over your old NISAs into it. They're completely separate systems. Now, the old NISAs can continue. So if you start Tsumitate NISA next year, which is what I'm going to do, that will be tax-free for 20 years. But at the end of the 20 years, you don't have the option of rolling it over into a new NISA. It'll just finish. And your investments will either move into a taxable account or you can sell them at that point.
Right.
But it's pretty cool. I'm excited about the new system. The only problem is going to be finding the money to actually try and max out that 3.6 million yen a year, because that is quite a lot for, an unemployed person like myself.
That's the next question on the list. Where can I get 3.6 million yen from?
Exactly.
Good. So it seems like it's good news all around, isn't it? With the NISA.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really found a negative to it. It's all good. Except maybe if you're American, and they have some kind of thing where you have to use the mutual fund portion, because that's something that Americans can't really do. But
is there be double taxed on that? Is that right?
Well, mutual funds, the IRS doesn't like non-US mutual funds. It's very difficult to do the paperwork to report them, apparently. So you want to avoid them completely. And actually, the old new NISA that was going to start in 2024 had a similar system where you had to buy mutual funds first, but you could get out of that by filling in some paperwork and saying, I'm an experienced investor and I've decided not to use mutual funds. So I'm guessing this system will have some kind of similar loophole for that.
Right. And just to make it clear, this is not starting next year. This is the year after.
From 2024. So next year, you still have to use the current NISA system, which is a regular NISA or a Tsumitate NISA. And everyone's kind of thinking, which would be better? Do you have the regular NISA with the bigger amount? You can put in 1.2 million yen, but it's only tax-free for 5 years. Or do you take the Tsumitate NISA, which is smaller? It's only 400,000 yen, but it's tax-free for 20 years, which is better. For me, I'm going to go for Tsumitate NISA because I want that tax-free period for longer, and I'm going to save up some money to put into the eternal NISA when it starts.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I'm going to save some cash basically and hope that the stock market continues being frothy rather than climbing. But we'll see.
Interesting strategy.
It's a good problem to have.
Yes. Related to that, I think some questions will wait until the end, but this one is relevant. So in the chat, somebody's asking, can I continue doing my Tsumitate NISA and also start the new NISA and continue both at the same time?
Yeah, so that is an excellent question. Basically, what happens is that you'll be able to do Tsumitate NISA next year in 2023. And that Tsumitate NISA will be tax-free for the entire 20-year period. However, from 2024, you'll no longer have access to Tsumitate NISA. Instead, you'll have to just put new money into the eternal NISA. But your existing accounts will continue to exist until they run out of tax-free period, or you just sell the investments. So some people are planning to sell their NISA holdings and put them into the new, and use the money to put into the new eternal NISA. It kind of depends on whether you've got enough money to keep the existing investments and put new money into the new system or not. So that's something that everyone's going to have to figure out for themselves.
Right. So it's a choice, really. You either keep the Tsumitate NISA and the new NISA both together, or if you want to, you could sell the Tsumitate NISA and use that money to buy stuff to put into the new one.
Yeah. So if you weren't able to put in 3.6 million anyway, that might be a way to speed up the process a bit. Because obviously we want to have our money invested for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's if you can, it's a good idea to front load these accounts. Like you could max out your 18 million yen lifetime limit in 5 years if you really went for it.
To give yourself as much time as possible for it to grow.
To compound and grow tax-free. Yeah, exactly.
But I hope that answers your question. Fras 2015 on the chat.
Awesome. Right, I guess we can move on. So the next question was actually something that you suggested, wasn't it?
Yes, I got a leaflet through a letterbox from the local water company. I guess everyone in our neighborhood got it. It's just informing us of a few price increases. And I think probably we've all had this either from water, electricity or whatever. And it really interested me how they played it and made it look as though, oh, it's not so bad. You know, it's only a little increase. But sort of when you look behind the figures, it's not quite as good in my opinion. So the way they show it is they give you a chart of the sort of the base price, and that is going up 154 yen. And then each of the
that sounds reasonable. That's only like a pet bottle, right?
Yeah, and that's up to 8 meters cubed of water. And I have no idea how much we use in a month without checking, but it seems okay. And then each sort of like section above that, the 9 to 15 cubic meters of water, 16 to 20, they have various different levels. And each one of those, it shows the increase. And they're all a few yen. So 21 yen increase, 22 yen increase, 24 yen increase, things like that. This is per meter cube square that you use. So looking at that, that's okay. For example, the base price is going up from 776 yen to 930 yen. But when you calculate the percentages, pretty much all of them are about 20% increase. And I don't know about you, but in my head, 21 yen, that's not so bad, but 20%, oh, that's quite a lot. You know, obviously you think about that over the year. If my water bill is going up 20% over the year.
Yeah, I mean, is your salary going up 20% is the question, you know, because that's
pretty big increase. So so the first lesson, I think, is I think it helps to calculate things in your head as percentages if you can. And I think at the supermarkets, they do the reverse. They'll put a discount on a packet of milk, a box of milk or something, 10% off, 20% off, and oh, that looks good. But then when you actually look at the yen amount, it'd be, you know, 15 yen or whatever.
37 yen, yeah.
Right. So yeah, if you're seeing a price increase, try to think of it in terms of percentages. And I think that gives you a better hold on that.
Yeah, because of course it's not just water, right? I mean, everyone's paying these higher water rates, so some businesses are going to try and pass that on. Like I've seen everything going up in Sendai, and you know the news today was talking about 7,000 food items have announced price increases, and this is really going to affect some families, I think.
Yes.
It's kind of widespread price increases that aren't necessarily going to be matched by salary increases in Japan. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yes. Sticking with this, however, the second thing I noticed also on this pamphlet is it's got a little sort of sample or an example of if you're a single person household, if you're a 4-person household, if you're a small shop, or if you're a large hospital. It's got little, you know, example figures for you to roughly see how much extra you might pay. And so it shows per 2 months, it's got a 339 yen increase for a 1-person household, a 1,400 yen increase for a 4-person household. Again, not so bad. But when I look at the small print, that's for the water going out of the house.
Oh, the guest suite, right?
The water coming in. I don't know about you, but in our local bill, it is itemized and it is separated, water going out, water coming in. And it's pretty much the same as you can imagine, unless you water your garden,
Stockpiling
non-stop
it somewhere.
every day, for
Yeah.
example. Or no, I suppose unless you've got your own water stock somehow. Anyway, basically you need to double the figures to actually get something close to what you're actually going to pay, because it's not including the water you're going to use through the taps. It's only
That is pretty sneaky.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So a bit disappointing.
Actually, a few years ago, I got a water bill for 3.6 million yen.
Whoa.
That should have been my true or false thing, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we were living in this old house and it froze and one of the pipes broke, but it was an underground pipe in the garden. It might have been an earthquake, actually, come to think of it. But yeah, so we got this bill for 3.6 million yen. And it was just ridiculous. I mean, I looked at it and just laughed. I wish I'd kept it, because this would be great to have proof of this. But we ended up calling them up and saying, this is ridiculous. And there is a provision where if it's damaged, and you get proof that it's damaged, so you get a contractor in and checks and finds the break, you can actually get it prorated. So eventually, after quite a bit of back and forth, they just averaged out that month for the last couple of years, and we ended up paying like 9,000 yen instead of 3.6 million.
And just for people who are not familiar with the rate at the moment, that's about $27,000 or £22,000.
Yeah.
That's a big bill.
Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't. It was so ridiculous that it didn't stress us out too much. I think if it had been, one kind of margin smaller, like if it was 100,000, it might have been stressful. But by 3.6 million, you're just like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Like,
wow.
Actually, related to inflation, the government announced a scheme to make it more attractive for people to have children, didn't it?
Yes. Suddenly there's going to be loads more births. Yes, this was I saw this on the news, and the headline was, I'll read it out: Japanese government wants to give people an extra 80,000 yen to have babies.
That's not bad. I mean, 80,000 yen a month would make a big difference, right, to young families.
Yeah, this is not quite a month. It's 80,000 yen, but it's on top of what you already get from the government when you have a child, which is 42,000 yen. So
right, but the average price of a birth is something like 600,000, isn't it? And it's not covered by medical insurance.
That's true. Yes, it's not. So the Mainichi Shimbun apparently says the nationwide average is 47,000 yen. So basically, the amount they're giving away will basically cover the cost of giving birth.
Oh, right. That's a really good incentive then.
It's not an incentive. Yeah, it's like, okay, you can kind of get it for free.
Oh, yeah, I'm not convinced the government understands how to incentivize people on this, or how to make it easier. It's not a matter of incentivizing. I think it's more a matter of removing the barriers to having children. And from my perspective, the main ones are things like stable jobs and kind of work-life balance and that kind of thing, having parents able to be at home as well as at work. So yeah.
Yes, it's kind of frustrating that it seems like if you just throw more money at the problem, it'll go away. And I'm not a woman, I've never had a child. Well, my partner has, but yeah, I don't think money is like the thing that's sort of stopping. I don't know. I don't think money is the main issue, or at least it's not the thing.
Yeah. And clearly, because the rate of births this year again is a record low. It's under 800,000, and they thought that was going to be the number in like 2030. So we're like 8 years ahead of schedule in terms of population decline in Japan. So yeah,
kind of like. Yeah, they recognize the problem, but I can't see that that's going to really do anything.
Yeah, I think we can answer this question, can't we? So about this subsidy or this payment is going to apply to residents. So it doesn't matter whether you're Japanese or foreign nationality. It's going to be paid to anyone who's legally living in Japan. But again, it doesn't really cover the cost of actually giving birth, because childbirth is crazily not covered by insurance. I don't understand that reasoning at all, but it's the case. So,
Yeah.
all right, on to iDeCo.
Talking about just talking about the legally resident thing.
Yeah.
In Japan's favor, I have found that it's pretty. I've found it pretty easy. For example, buying property, there's no restrictions if you're a foreigner here buying property, as long as you're a legal foreigner. The same with getting.
Actually, so for real estate, there's no restrictions at all. You don't even have to live here. So,
oh, really?
You know, you could live. That's why there's been a lot of interest from other countries, people buying Japanese property because it's so cheap. But yeah, currently there's no legal limit at all. And some people think that, you know, mountains and like water and stuff should be legally restricted from foreign ownership, but it currently isn't. So
yeah. The same when I had to get an unemployment benefit a while ago. I didn't have any trouble with me being a foreigner. Just walked in. As long as you're legally resident here, then yeah, same as everyone else. So yeah, they do some things in a good, fair way.
Yeah.
Enough for them a little bit there.
To be balanced out by the news story this week about the Nikkei Brazilian woman with 2 children who lost her job, ran into financial difficulty, went to City Hall, to the, you know, welfare support office, and got told to go back to her country. So
Really? Okay,
she's suing them, and hopefully she'll win and you know, change that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so it's not always the thing about welfare payments, though, is that there's no legal obligation for the government to provide them to non-citizens. They're allowed to, and so far most local governments have chosen to, but there isn't a legal obligation to. So it's a bit of a gray area in terms of welfare payments. But things like unemployment insurance or pension that you pay into, that doesn't have a nationality component to it. If you pay in and you meet the requirements, then you can receive the benefits. So,
oh, okay. Well, I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, really nasty. I mean, it's yeah, but I mean, their job. Actually, no, they're horrible to Japanese people as well. So the thing to understand about the welfare office is that their job is to dissuade people from applying for benefits, which is why you often see news stories about charities that help people navigate the system, because the average person coming into this for the first time has no idea what they're entitled to and how to apply for it. Whereas a charity caseworker who's done this tens or hundreds of times can help people navigate the system, the unfriendly and unhelpful system, to get what they're actually entitled to.
Yeah, that might be a link you shared or something. I saw the same thing, where yeah, their priority is to make sure that people don't cheat the system, as opposed to their priority being people get the support they need. And so it really is, unfortunately, up to the individual to find out what they need and then really push for it and chase people up at City Hall.
Yeah, and push through it's a bit like Fight Club, where they're like, "Yep, go away. You're too fat. You know, you're too thin. You're too." Have you seen Fight Club?
Probably one of the few people who hasn't seen it.
Oh, okay. So there's this scene where, you know, they have their organization and people want to join it, and they get the Zen kind of treatment where they have to stand outside and wait in the rain for 3 days until, you know, they've persevered enough to be allowed in. And it's, yeah, it kind of feels like that when you're trying to go through these unfriendly government departments.
Yeah.
So
sigh.
Right, so let's go on to iDeCo, I think. So iDeCo has changed. The 2 big announcements recently were that from October this year, if you are paying into a company DC plan, a defined contribution pension plan through your company, where, you know, maybe they match your contributions or you're basically paying in through there, you can also now, in some circumstances, open your own private iDeCo account alongside that. And before October, you couldn't do that, but from October, some people can. So that if you're paying into a company DC scheme and you'd like to use iDeCo, please talk to your HR department, and they'll be able to tell you whether your company's DC scheme is compatible with having your own iDeCo account as well. Because obviously, if you're not using your full tax-free allowance, it would be good to do that by having an iDeCo account as well.
So it does depend on the company, really.
Basically, it depends on what type of DC scheme you're paying into, and also how much, because there's a combined limit. So if you're maxing out your company scheme, you can't use iDeCo. But if you're not, then you can use the remainder as an iDeCo account.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit complicated, and it's case by case. So the best option is probably to talk to your company there.
What would be the benefit of having an iDeCo account? Why is that a good thing?
So the main benefit for iDeCo is it lowers your taxable income. So any money you're putting into iDeCo, you're not paying income tax on. So effectively, by paying into iDeCo, you're lowering your income tax and your local inhabitants tax, and possibly also your health insurance and things that are based on income, because your income has come down. So for people who have income, iDeCo is a great way to reduce your income tax, basically, and also to save tax-free for retirement.
Yeah. We do have a question about iDeCo actually in the chat.
Oh, nice.
Cov Rules. Hello, Cov Rules. Loving the show. Thank you. Are all iDeCo payments tax-free, or do you need to offset against your tax during kakute shinkoku, the year-end tax filing?
So what iDeCo does is it lowers your taxable income. So there's two ways iDeCo can work. If you're a salaried worker, you can ask your employer to deduct your iDeCo payments from your salary at source, and then they're paid into your broker or whatever. And if you do that, then automatically every month you'll pay less income tax because they've already been deducted at source. The other way to do this is if your employer doesn't want to do that, or if you don't want to do that, you can have your iDeCo payments taken from your bank account. And if you do it that way, then at the end of the year, in November or so, you'll get a statement from your iDeCo provider. And then you can submit that either to your Nenmatsu Chosei through your company, your tax adjustment, or with your kakute shinkoku, and that will automatically reduce. And you'll get a tax refund at that point. So the two systems.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. The postcard comes. You have to hold on to that postcard, because if you're doing the kakute shinkoku, the year-end tax filing, and you take your paperwork to the tax office or online, they have to see a copy of that, basically, or have to potentially be able to see a copy of that. So
they might ask to see it. Yeah,
it tells you the annual total to fill in the form with, and it also is proof that you have paid that in.
Although with My Number, and as they integrate the systems, they should be able to do it automatically fairly soon.
Yes.
So there's also talk of being able to do the medical expenses deduction automatically in the future, which would be amazing, because right now you have to make an Excel sheet and it's really annoying. Whereas if you just linked it, if you're using your My Number card as your health card, then they should be able to pull that data. And hopefully in the future, they'll be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, this person continues the question actually with the iDeCo. What happens if you're a housewife and you're under the tax limit? So I think they mean if you are not paying income tax because your income is not.
So I mean, the main advantage of iDeCo is that you save on income tax. And the disadvantage is that you don't have access to your money until you're 60. It's locked away. So if you're not paying income tax, or you're in a very low income tax band, then possibly iDeCo might not be the best choice. It might be better in that situation to use NISA instead, because you do have access to that. You have that flexibility as well. So if you're not paying income tax and you haven't maxed out your NISA, I might be inclined to do that first. And then only then, if you have more money, you can put it in iDeCo, because there is a slight tax benefit to iDeCo as well.
That might come up again in the deep dive in a few minutes' time.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, before that, so I had one more thing for the news thing, which is it's not something that's come out in the news, but it's something time sensitive, and that is Furusato nozei.
Yes, another way to not reduce your income tax, but to use it to buy things. So
yeah, so I've been doing this. It's a sort of a hometown tax where you can pay your tax in advance to another region in the country, a town or a village or a prefecture, and you will get a gift in return, which
they'll send you presents. Yes.
Yep. And then that will get taken off the tax that you're going to pay. So effectively, you don't pay any more tax, but you do get a gift as a kind of thank you for, one, paying in advance, and two, paying to a particular village or town that you like, or you like the gifts they give you. It's a good system. We actually talked more about it in the first RetireJapan.
Yeah, people can go back and check out the first episode of RetireJapan TV for that.
Yes,
but you had some kind of tricks that you were going to talk about today, didn't you?
Yes, I like air miles, as I think you do as well. If I'm correct, you've actually written an ebook in the past about.
Yes. I in the before times, I did a lot of air mile kind of hacking type stuff.
Right. Yeah, I'm probably not your level, but I do like to clock up those air miles. So I had the JAL mileage bank, and I don't have a JAL credit card, but still I can buy stuff through the Furusato nozei website, and nearly all of the ones that I've used, you can access them through the JAL, like Japan Airlines marketplace. It's not immediately obvious, but you go to I think they call it the mileage park, and so through there you access the page for what's it called, Sato Furu toka, something like that, and you will then get a mile for every 200 or 300 yen that you spend.
Oh wow! On top of the normal kind of benefits, so there's no drawback to doing this.
Nope. As long as you go through the link on the JAL website, once you've sort of logged in and stuff like that, yep, you just continue on to the website of the Furusato nozei company that you usually use, and yep, you get the miles. It takes a little while. It takes, I think, 2 or 3 months later to get them, but it's worked very well for me. Occasionally they have campaigns, like it'll be double miles. The best mileage is actually for JAL's own Furusato site.
Of course.
This is not so good. So if you want these particular peaches from Shikoku or something, it's probably not going to be on JAL's own Furusato branded thing, but you can still use that to go to the other sites, and yeah, you get the miles as well.
That's a good point. I hadn't heard that before. So yeah, I will be. Well, my wife pays tax. I don't, because I'm unemployed now. But I'll be encouraging her to do that because yeah, we do like our air miles as well.
Yep, and if you pay with a JAL credit card as well, you're going to get extra miles through that as well. So
yes, nice.
Yep, miles galore. Anyway, yeah, so that's in the news because it's coming up to year end, and you've only got a few days left to buy anything through Furusato nozei if you need to for this year's limit.
Yeah, once we get into January, we're talking about next year's, which is spending your 2024 taxes. So yeah.
Yes. Somebody's asking, what's the website for the Furusato site? We're going to have a link to that in the description.
Yeah, we'll stick the JAL site in there. If you just want generic Furusato nozei, though, you can just Google Furusato nozei and you'll get all the portal sites. There's a number of them, and you can just you can go through Rakuten, you can go through a whole bunch of different places.
Yeah, the ones that come to mind are Sato Furu. There's Furu Navi, I think. They're all basically the same thing. It doesn't matter which one you choose.
Yeah. And Rakuten's got their own one, which, if you're in the Rakuten points ecosystem, that can be very profitable as well.
Yeah. Right, that's it for our news items then, I think.
No, we're out of news. Right. So let's go on to our deep dive. We should have goggles for this one or something. if we develop the concept a bit more. Okay, so let's have the background for today's deep dive then.
Yeah, so just wondering, our son is off at university. He comes back and does a bit of work in the holidays and gets a bit of extra money that way. And on the one hand, I need to work out whether he should be declaring tax or whether that's coming through the company that he works for. But anyway, I'd really like him to start investing. And what we actually did so far is his bank account that he uses, which is Wise, formerly TransferWise, allows you to have these. They call them jars. I think other systems call them buckets. And so he set aside one bucket where he'll put a little bit of that money that he receives into a savings jar, a savings bucket. Now, obviously, especially with inflation rising, that's sort of losing value. It's nice to see it increase, over time as he puts some money into it, but relatively it's losing value. So it'd be great if he could invest that. Should he get a NISA? Should he get iDeCo, which he won't be able to touch until he's 60, which is like forever when you're
yeah, definitely.
Not really sure what to do there. And yeah, it's difficult to encourage him. I don't think he would be putting everything in there because he wants to have some money for spending and things that come up. Should he be thinking about having some money set aside for getting a house deposit or a car or something? Or should he be just like forgetting the money exists until Yeah, he retires.
Ooh, okay. So quick prelim. Your son is a normal resident of Japan.
Yes.
Okay. And he's a subscriber to the Retire Japan YouTube channel.
Oh, he will be.
Because we need 50 more people by the end of the month. So.
Good point. Good point.
Okay, so I would say the easiest thing is going to be just to use NISA. Because there's no minimum contribution to NISA. You can start with 100 yen, you can start with 500 yen. It's really easy to start. And for me, the most important thing is just to start. So whenever I get someone who comes to me and says, I'm not investing yet, I don't know what to do, I'm like, okay, well, take a small amount of money and start investing, because by doing, that's how you're going to learn more about it. So to start invest, you need to open a broker account. I would probably use Rakuten if I was, or SBI or Monex, the big online brokers. Open a NISA account. Probably Tsumitate NISA, because he's probably not going to go over 400,000 yen a year, I'm guessing.
No.
And you want the long duration, and just start putting money. Choose a reasonably low cost diversified fund. Like the Emax's Slim All Country Fund. That's a favorite on the Retire Japan Forum. And yeah, just put 500 yen a month or 1,000 yen a month or whatever.
Even that is allowed.
You can start with 100 yen. So you can do 100 yen a month if you wanted to. And that would be okay as well.
So you have to set up a direct debit kind of thing, I guess, for that.
For the Tsumitate NISA, it's basically a monthly thing. So you need to set up a regular payment that goes in regularly. And that can come out of your bank account or it can come out of your broker account. So if you send money to your broker account, it sits in a cash account inside the broker and they can take that money out as well. But yeah, I would do that. Just start with a laughably small amount of money. And learn about the process and get started and see how it goes. And then, over time, you can increase that up to the limit of 33,333, or from 2024, up to the limit of 3.6 million. So
yeah,
if you want to encourage him, you could offer to match this amount. That's something I'm planning to do with my grandkids. So if you put in 10,000 yen, I will put in 10,000 yen as well. And then you'll have 20,000 yen. Keeping in mind the annual gift tax limit is 1.1 million yen. So if people receive more than that much, then they have to declare gift tax. But up to that amount, you can receive it and not declare or pay gift tax. So
I like that incentive idea. That's good. And then we split the profits when he.
I don't think you're allowed to do that. Once you've given it to him, it's his. So, but yeah, I like the idea of sweetening the deal so that but you also need to put conditions on it, like they're not going to take the money out. You match it and then next year he decides he's going to go to Fuji Rock and spends the whole thing on that.
Yeah I mean, technically we can't stop them because
of course not. No. So there is a slight argument for starting iDeCo. A slight one. However, in order to have an iDeCo account, you need to be paying into Nenkin. And most university students are exempt. They get an exemption from paying Nenkin because they're in full-time education. So they fill in some paperwork and they get an exemption. And if you're receiving an exemption from Nenkin, you can't open an iDeCo account. The reasoning being, if you can't afford to pay Nenkin, you certainly can't afford to be investing in iDeCo. So
right.
So that's probably out. But if it wasn't,
not for him actually, because he's a student overseas and he's not allowed to opt out of the Nenkin system.
Oh, really? Interesting. So he is paying Nenkin.
Yeah. So the reason is because they can't verify what is a bona fide university and what is not overseas. It could be.
But if you're overseas, you don't have to pay Nenkin either, do you?
Well, his permanent address is still here.
Okay. So if he's paying Nenkin, he can use iDeCo. And the thing about iDeCo is that you get the income tax benefit when you put the money in. And then when you cash out at the end, you have a tax-free allowance that's based on how many years you've paid in. So starting to pay in earlier is going to increase your tax-free allowance. So the maximum is after 30 years of paying in. So if if he wanted to, he could start paying in the minimum into iDeCo, which is 5,000 yen a month.
Mhm.
And therefore build up that eventual tax-free allowance at the end. But that's kind of a marginal kind of plan B. I'd definitely go with the NISA route.
Okay.
Because then he would have access to that money. If he wanted to, buy a house or, had some kind of issue, that money is available. It's flexible. So,
yeah. I like
although if you're going to do the matching thing, then maybe matching into iDeCo where they can't actually get the money might be more effective.
Yeah. No, NISA sounds like a good first step, especially with the small amounts. It makes it very easy to sell it to somebody who's not interested in investments. Like you're not.
Yeah, like just put in 500 yen, and then I'll stop bugging you about it, and you'll realize that 500 yen is actually growing by 15%, 20%, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'll put more in, and I'll get more. It's just building habits.
Mhm.
And the best way to build a habit is to start really small and make it easy to succeed, and then your success will build momentum and so on.
Another thing that I've found is that for people who are not used to investing, sometimes it feels like you're spending that money, like you're losing that money because it's going out of your account. And I hope my dad doesn't mind me saying this, but we were going through it with him, and after a year or two, he was looking at it, saying, so this is like still my money. I could take this out right now and go and spend it right now. So yeah, it's not quite a bank account, but it's still, it's available to you there. And I think that's sometimes a psychological block, like, oh, I'm putting this money into this thing and then I can't touch it, and I'm risking it, and it's like my money is gone basically, but it's not the case.
Yeah, that's true. Although I do find it useful to think of investing as shopping.
Oh,
I find I get the same kind of enjoyment out of it. So it's similar to going on Amazon and looking for camera lenses or something. You go on Rakuten and you buy a fund. Like I get the same kind of enjoyment out of that. So I've redirected my kind of shopping impulse from stuff to financial instruments, which is obviously more profitable over the long run.
And hopefully they don't depreciate as much as
you'd hope so. Although I don't know, this year's been interesting, hasn't it?
Actually, maybe this links into a question that we've had. So we're going off NISA iDeCo a little bit here, but this person, Peter asked, with the stock market plummeting, have you changed, this is you, Ben, have you changed the total amount you invest per month? He's interested to hear what other people are doing at the moment with the stock market up and particularly down.
Well, so I'm unemployed now. So I'm basically, I have a small salary as well. So I'm basically investing the same every month. So the way I approach investing is always, I decide how much I'm going to invest and I invest that, and then I spend the other stuff. I spend the rest. So it's I don't have a budget, but I have an investment goal, and that gets taken care of first. So no, I haven't changed my monthly. I don't know what's going to happen. So, the stock market could recover. The stock market could continue to bounce around like it has been. It could get even worse. Lots of people are, talking up another big kind of crash. But they always do this. It's the same people as well. It's that guy that predicted from The Big Short, the movie.
Yeah.
Michael Berry, is it, or someone?
Yes.
So he has... while I've been following the news on this, he's predicted like 18 different stock market crashes that haven't happened because he got lucky on that one. So, I have no idea what's going to happen. The only thing I can control is how much I'm putting away. And I'm continuing to put in the same amount every month. So basically, I'm looking to max out my iDeCo and max out my NISA accounts at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really, the thing I often ask myself, the stock market's gone down. Okay, are you planning to sell, or were you planning to sell? No. If not, it doesn't really affect you. If it goes up, it feels good. If it goes down, it means things are cheaper to buy. So,
but you wouldn't buy more if it goes down.
Yeah. So
you just keep it. You're not really interested.
Oh right, yeah. If you stick with the same amount, yes, you could get more for your money, kind of thing.
But I mean, personally, you wouldn't you wouldn't be like, oh my god, everything's on sale. Let's cash in sell the car and buy stocks.
No, because I've tried timing the market in the past, and it's a hopeless task. I think just don't even think about it. So
yeah. I mean, for me, like I'm gutted because this year I got the stock market right. I sold everything in like February, March.
Wow. Oh, did you?
Yeah, and then the weak yen came out of nowhere and absolutely ruined that.
Right. Yeah.
So stocks, I sold everything and then stocks crashed and I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then the yen crashed too. And then I couldn't buy stuff. I was like,
Right. So
yeah.
even when you get one thing right, that's not to say there's
Something else comes along and screws you over. Same with the COVID crash, March 2020. Huge, very temporary stock market crash. My wife and we had savings and we were like, oh my God, this is it. This is the crash we've been waiting for to buy stuff. But my wife's business was in trouble because of COVID. We had to close the school, so we had to pay the rent and pay the staff without having any income. So we couldn't afford to put our cash into the stock market like we wanted to, because we had to keep that as a reserve to keep the business going, just in case. So again, like you get everything right, you've got your emergency fund, the stock market crashes, you're going to buy and something else happens. So I do think it's probably not worth spending much time on, what the stock market's doing. It's much better to figure out your behavioral stuff, like how much you can invest every month and setting up a sensible investment strategy and then just persevering with that.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to be clever and time the market and make billions or whatever it is.
Totally agree. I think the same is true when it comes to selling as well. Rather than thinking, oh, now it's a great time to sell everything, just sell gradually as you would buy gradually. But at least that's my approach.
Definitely. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for the advice from my son. I'll pass that on.
And well, I hope he's going to subscribe to the channel. Nice. So we were going to take questions at this. Oh no, we got some forum shorts, haven't we? So
yes.
All right, let's go through the forum shorts super quick. So on the forum, some threads that I thought were quite interesting. First one is very, very specific. So it was talking about when you build a house, where should you get the air conditioners from? Should you buy them from the company that built the house, or should you not do that? And then after the house is finished, should you go off and buy them yourself, at an electrical store or from somewhere else? We had quite an interesting discussion there. People with various experiences on this topic. So I recommend checking that out. We had a few threads on the UK state pension. So this is a bit of a niche topic just for UK people, but we're both UK people. So yay. The first thing is that the government gateway, there's a system that lets you check your pension online. So check your pension contributions and your projected payouts and so on online, but you need to register for it. And until recently, it was impossible for people living abroad to register for it because they required kind of 3 different types of ID, 2 of which you couldn't get if you lived abroad. But they fixed it. So now you can register for Government Gateway just using your passport and their app. So that's very good news. Less good news is that the direct debit. So if you're paying your voluntary pension contributions by direct debit, the government keeps like canceling the direct debits and not telling people. It's happened to me twice now, and it's happened to some other people as well. So it might be better just to pay by bank transfer if you're paying into the UK pension. That means you just get a bill every year or so, and then you pay the entire year at once with one bank transfer, rather than having it come out of your bank account regularly, but having that payment stop unexpectedly and screw up your repayments.
Oh, you don't have to do it monthly. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously paying a whole year at once is more of a lump sum, but yeah, it's easier.
Yeah.
There was an interesting thread about how to budget for house maintenance. So obviously, if you live in a house as opposed to a mansion, you don't have that monthly fee for repairs or for the repair fund, but you do have these potential repairs that come up every so often, right? You've got to do the roof every 15 years or whatever. You've got to paint the walls on the outside. You have to check the foundations. So how to save up for that, how much that might involve, and how to think about it. There's a nice thread about that as well. There's the eternal topic of, should I pay my mortgage early in Japan? And lots of ideas there. I've got my viewpoint, which I wrote about on the thread. Other people have different viewpoints that they wrote about. If you have a mortgage, it's definitely something worth thinking about. So should you overpay your mortgage to either make the mortgage shorter or reduce your future payments, or should you just pay it on schedule and take advantage of the still low interest rates at the moment?
I'm just going to jump in there and say we are overpaying. So we're taking the money that we are comfortable overpaying, but not giving it to the bank with the rest of the mortgage payment. We're putting that in a Tsumitate NISA account. And then hopefully that value should be more than in 30 years or whatever than the amount that we would have paid in. And so we can then keep the difference.
That is a very good idea. And that's something that I like. I like optionality. So I like having options. And one thing about repaying mortgages early is that you then remove your options because you paid the bank, but you don't get credit for that. So say, you overpay your mortgage this year and then next year you lose your job and you can't pay the mortgage, then the bank's not going to say, oh, we'll just put that money you gave us towards those payments. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I do like having the optionality of having control of the money yourself, because it's quite difficult to take the money out again once you've given it back to the bank. So
yeah,
nice. And then the last thread was about quite an interesting kind of psychological topic, which is basically a lot of personal finance is kind of retraining yourself. So when I was in my 20s, I used to just spend all my money and run out of money, a week before payday, and borrow money from friends and just spend too much. And a lot of my kind of financial journey has been trying to reprogram myself so that I am more conscious of my spending and what I spend money on and what the value I get from my spending and all that kind of thing. And this thread is like, what happens when you do that too well? You've reprogrammed yourself to be frugal and careful and maximize value. And so how do you then, maybe spend more than you're comfortable with, right? If you got used to really not spending very much at all, and suddenly you're in a comfortable financial situation where you can afford to spend money on things, but you can't bring yourself to. So that's something I've definitely noticed with myself, where I'm like I never take taxis, for example. I'll always walk or take the train or whatever, but I can easily afford to take a taxi if it was raining and, I have to like walk 15 kilometers in the rain or whatever. So just that kind of mental kind of switch. Like my grandparents had it. So my grandparents were fairly well off. Like my grandfather's hobby was flipping houses, back when this wasn't really a thing. He was a builder by trade. So he worked all week as a builder. And then on the weekend, he'd buy some ruin and like rebuild it and sell it. So they were fairly well off, but my grandmother, was in quite poor health and did not spend any money on herself in that way. She'd like wait for the bus to go into town and she could have easily just gotten a taxi. That kind of thing where you kind of train yourself to be frugal, but to your detriment in the end. So this was an interesting thread about that as well.
Yeah. I did see a forum comment, and this is the Motley Fool comment many, many years ago, with this guy saying that when he was younger, he dreamed of owning a Ferrari, and now he's sort of in his later years, and he's saved and invested, and now he's very well off, and he can afford a Ferrari, but he hasn't bought one because he's just happy. When he sees a Ferrari, he knows, yeah, I could buy that if I want to, and that's enough for him. And I thought it was a really interesting sort of look on life.
Yeah. I mean, that's one benefit of having kind of financial security, I think, is that but I think you can it's quite easy to take it too far, and the habits that got you here are not what you need going forward. That time when you need to flip, it's a bit like work-wise, when you're starting out working, you have to say yes to everything and try lots of different things and take any opportunity given to you. But after a while, you need to focus and you need to start saying no to stuff that isn't relevant anymore.
Yeah.
And that's also a difficult switch to flip, I think. So it's a very similar kind of idea, the fact that, as your circumstances change, then your habits and actions need to change as well.
Good. So I think we're going to put links to all those forum discussions in the description.
Yes, we are. Link in the description.
Good. So we're going to finish off with Q&A.
Yeah, if we've got any more.
But yeah, there's one again for us, 2015 in the comments. Thank you very much. Is the new, back to NISA again, is the new NISA a monthly investment or a one-time one?
The details aren't actually clear yet. That's a really good question. So obviously the 2.4 million growth part of the NISA that's basically got no restrictions on it, that won't be monthly. That'll be a free allowance. The question is the mutual fund one going to require a regular payment or not? I'm guessing not. I would hope not, because that does complicate it. So that you could do a regular payment if you wanted to, but you wouldn't have to. But the details aren't out yet for that one. So it's possible that the mutual fund portion, the 1.2 million yen portion of the eternal NISA, could be a regular payment thing if they basically just tripled the current NISA. But we don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll know a lot more about this by, say, September next year, because the brokers will have the accounts up and running, and they'll have information about that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's no need to panic, because it's a lot of time for these little details to be worked out. Good. That's all the questions I think we have.
Yay. Okay.
Thank you.
So we need to give our answers. I didn't forget about the 4 truths and a lie thing.
That's good, because
3
I did.
truths and a lie. And then we need to tell people when the next Retire Japan TV is.
Yes.
So from your 4 things, I think the toothbrush algorithm thing was not true.
Well, somebody in the chat said that climbing Mount Fuji might be not true. Both wrong, I'm afraid. When I fly into an airport, there's no way I'm walking into the city. I've got a friend who does that, and I admire him.
Depends on the airport, doesn't it? I mean, some of them are okay, but
I was at a conference with him in Norway, and yeah, he walked from the airport in Norway to the city, which is, I think, I mean, I took the train, so I don't know how long it took to walk, but also you got the cold as well at that time of year. But no,
and your luggage. I mean, I wouldn't mind walking it, but like
he travels light. He tries to travel light with just one rucksack. But yeah, he really enjoys seeing the sort of the changing landscape. So going from sort of, I suppose, commercial from the airport, then kind of
green belt, I guess, and then
suburban, then really urban. Yeah, it's a way for him to get to grips with.
Like, what is he going to walk from Narita into central Tokyo? I mean,
good question. I don't know, but
that would take.
He might do. He is quite happy to walk for hours. But yeah, that's not me. So I have climbed Mount Fuji this year, and I'm just so. I'm not a sporty person.
I knew about that, so I was keeping quiet.
I recommend it, and I'm actually tempted to do it again, because it's just.
So what's your toothbrush algorithm?
Right. Yeah, I think so. You brush your teeth, and I don't know if it's the same with you, but I tend to always start in the same position. Top left,
definitely.
And then I think dentist one time said to me, you make sure you brush evenly all over. And I figured by the time I get to the bottom right, the toothpaste has sort of disappeared. So I want to make sure I brush evenly. And I'm quite bad at remembering where did I start yesterday. So each week I'll either start left side or right side. So this week I'm just on the left side. And then mornings I'll start at the top, as like psychology, I'm getting them. And then in the evenings at the bedtime, I'm brushing at the bottom. And then if it's an even date, then I will brush on the inside first. And then if it's an odd date, I was on the outside. So today, December the 26th, in a few hours when I go to bed, I shall be brushing. It takes a while for me to actually start brushing, because I have to calculate it. So it's even, I'll be the inside. This week's on left, and it's the bottom. So left, bottom, inside was where I start tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay, you have got an algorithm.
I am a bit of a nerd.
Nice. Yeah, I was impressed you climbed the mountain, because I haven't, and I don't think I will, because it just seems a bit kind of crowded and stuff. But
Yeah, I tried to plan it when it wasn't busy, and it worked out very well. It was just a few people to say hello to.
but
Which
you're
is
still in
nice.
COVID, weren't you? So, we
Yes,
still have the COVID restrictions. So I think that's going to make a big difference. Once we get foreign tourists coming back, it's going to be mad again, isn't it? So
even so, it was towards the end of the season. It was a weekday, and it was still a few people, but it actually helped because of that camaraderie there of like, we're all in this challenge together. It was so tough, and it was so wonderful.
that's an achievement. Everyone needs to do it once, right? And only fools would do it twice, is the quote, I think.
I'd be a fool because
You're gonna do it again.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, I vowed I would never look at that mountain again when I came down. It was just so painful. But now I'm like, yeah, get me back up there.
You've forgotten how painful it was, and just the
was
good
crazy.
memories remain. Nice.
Sorry. So yeah, on to yours then.
Yes. So, yeah, you were right. So
Good.
I've been so I haven't actually been mugged, but people have tried to mug me 3 times,
Oh dear. Whoa.
but they didn't succeed. So,
Well,
so once in Sheffield, I walked into a toilet and there were 3 guys standing behind the door. And
No.
they kind of like, give us your money. And I was like, no. And then I kind of ran out again. So that was number 1. And number 2 was in Barcelona. I was walking along the street and I saw 2 guys following me. So I crossed the road and they crossed the road too. And I was like, okay. And so I basically crossed the road and went somewhere else. I went into something. So they gave up. And I can't remember the third one, but yeah, so that was the correct one. So I did study Chinese at university because I was very foolish, and my roommate did invent the Raspberry Pi.
That is amazing.
My roommate at uni, yeah, he was a computer guy. He was always on his computer. We were like, oh god, he's doing his computer thing again. But yeah, he made something. He's got a Wikipedia page, so I'm jealous. Nice guy, really nice guy. And I did fly a plane once, so.
Really, I have a Raspberry Pi in here.
Oh, there you go. Well, my roommate Eben Upton was the creator of that. So
Fantastic. And you flew a plane. I'm guessing it's
yeah, it was
commercial,
weird because we were in Guam. My wife booked, one of those like flying experience things for me. So I assumed that we'd go up in the plane, and they'd be like, "Oh, you can touch the controls now, and then we'll come down again, right?" But no, I walked into the plane and the guy was like, "Okay, so you sit here, and this is the yoke, and this is the whatever." He walked me through it, and he's like, "All right, now you're going to take off."
Oh, you took what?
So I took off, and then he was like, "Yeah, you're going to fly around," and we flew around. And he's like, "Now you're going to land it," and yeah, I did the whole thing. I was like, I was not expecting that, but it was the most amazing thing ever. It was brilliant. Loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it might be the rules are different in Guam because I don't think you're allowed to do that normally.
Wow. Yes, I've been in a small Cessna kind of thing, and it's so noisy, but a great experience. But to actually be the one in charge,
The whole thing, like, I mean, obviously he was sitting next to me and he had his, his controls were yoked to the thing, but no, I did the whole thing. Like, amazing. Definitely recommend it if you have the chance.
Wow.
All right, I think we're done. Fantastic. I had a good time.
Yeah,
I hope everyone else enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, nice comments in the chat. So thank you very much for those, everyone.
Awesome. So next session. When's the next one?
Next month. So we're aiming to do these every month towards
it's a monthly. I think more than once a month would just be too much fun. So
yeah. So we're looking at and again a Monday. We're trying to stick to Monday evenings.
Yeah, Monday evening, 8 o'clock.
So 23rd of January will be the next one.
Awesome. I'm going to be in Kyushu that weekend, just before that. So I'm going to be giving some talks in both Fukuoka and Kitakyushu from Retire Japan. If you're in the area, please come and see us. But yeah, otherwise, we'll be back here.
So for people in Fukuoka, Kitakyushu, how can they attend those? They just turn up?
Those are both run by Jolt chapters. So if you look for Jolt Fukuoka or Jolt Kitakyushu, the events are already up. They're also going to be in the Monday read.
Ah, right. Yeah. Subscribe to the Monday Read on retirejapan.com.
Come check out the blog. Yes. Actually, I'll put links in the description.
Should be a catchphrase.
I'll put links in the description as well. The description's going to be like, 18 pages long, just with all the links from today.
Good. I think we've covered a lot.
All right. Thanks for joining us. If you joined us live, if you didn't, come and join us live next time on January 23rd, 8 p.m. And we'll see you there. Thank you very much. Have a good night.